As much as I would love to talk about another Scream movie, we have to wait until 2022 to do that.
That's only one more year.
Actually, it's a few months. I think it's January 2022.
Is that when it's coming out?
I think so.
In January? Yeah. Will we rewatch all of these films in preparation?
Oh, I'm gonna. But, surprise, we watched 3 more vampire movies.
Yeah.
We watched the same movie that we talked about last week 3 times, 3 more times.
Eating Soup Alone is a podcast hosted by me, Christopher Crumley, and co-hosted by Nicholas Johnson. We try our best to ramble incoherently about a handful of movies at least once a week. So you love this movie. It's a mockumentary. It's from a little country, I think it's called New Zealand?
Yes, not Old Zealand. It's from New Zealand, directed by Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clemens.
Taika Waititi.
Yes.
That's how you say it?
Taika Waititi.
Okay.
He's directed, oh fuck, what's that movie called? Can't remember it. Jojo Rabbit and Thor Ragnarok. It's going to drive me crazy. I'm going to look it up.
Okay.
And Jermaine Clemens of
Flight of the Conchords fame.
Flight of the Conchords fame.
Yeah. As well as his buddy, Brett, at least, I think.
Is Brett involved in this movie?
No.
So
but his buddy Brett, I believe, won something like an Academy Award for his work on the Muppets soundtrack.
Yeah. It's very cool.
Which is a movie that I like.
For the Wilder people.
Never heard of that.
I hear it's good. I haven't seen it. I'd like to, though. I love Jojo Rabbit, though.
Haven't seen that one either.
We should watch that soon.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorites.
So anyways, this is a movie I've seen before.
It's a movie I've seen before.
This is a movie I own on Blu-ray. It was bought for me from a garage sale.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been wanting to see it for a while. My family had been like, oh, you gotta see it. You gotta see it. You gotta see it. And I knew I had to see it eventually, you know. So I was like, okay, I'll get to What Do We Do in the Shadows. And then eventually I got to it, and hey.
Chris is making a lot of faces right now. Like, hey.
It's my De Niro face.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
It's not bad.
It's pretty good. Not the... Well, De Niro face is pretty good, but the movie's also pretty alright.
Yeah, movie's really good.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Even before I saw these vampire movies. Really appreciate this one.
Any new appreciation with all of the context garnished?
A little bit here and there, but I still think it works by itself just fine without it. I was reading online that the only people who had the scripts were Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement. Like, they wouldn't let anybody else see the script. Because they were so like, funny. This is just what the scene is, because they wanted it to be as improvised as possible.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I know everybody says that about modern comedy movies all the time, but I think this movie is like a 90% improv.
Okay.
Which is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, every time I watch this movie, I remember being like, yeah, this movie's pretty funny. Then I watch it, I'm like, fuck, this movie is so funny. I love it. And it just kind of goes and goes and goes, and it feels almost like a season of a TV show. Mm-hmm. But it works. There's like 3 plots in it, like 3 stories that go on. And I don't mean like an A plot, a B plot, and a C plot. I mean like one thing happens, wraps up, another thing happens, wraps up, and then another thing happens and wraps up.
Yeah, it's also interesting. I don't know. I've just been thinking about it. I've never seen the entirety of This Is Spinal Tap.
Really?
Yeah, but that's probably the earliest example of mockumentary I can think of. You know? And then just a little while later, you kind of got, like, the idea of The Office, which is like, hey, what if it was a mockumentary about something as unglamorous as possible? You know, and then that kind of becomes Parks and Rec, and then YouTube kind of runs with it. You know, like I remember seeing one series where like it was like a like a theater class or something that was shot in the same vein as The Office and shit like that. And then this is probably at least to this point the farthest I've seen the idea taken. Yeah, maybe it might have second place to the SNL skit about being just an average guy who works in the Death Star. I think isn't that a thing that exists? Yeah. I say that in jest, though. This is it's just funny. I guess you can, like, what, the Spinal Tap is what, like 84 or something?
Yeah, something like that.
So it took like 30 years for them to be like, what about mockumentary about vampires? That's how long it takes to get to vampires.
How do you feel about mockumentary just being kind of like a style of shooting something now, instead of, like, The Office happened and it worked and it kicked it off, and then they were like, the entire time they're like, there's cameras here and this and that, and that's kind of how the show ends as the documentary comes out. But then there's shows like Parks and Rec and Modern Family that are just shot like that, like they have talking heads and stuff, but they never pay attention, pay any mind to it.
Yeah. Visually nails on a chalkboard. Conceptually nails on a chalkboard. I much prefer it when the show it's actually like, oh hey, we were making a documentary eventually.
Much better.
Because if it just looks like that, then I'm just pissed.
Oh, you were right on the dot. Spinal Tap's 84.
Right again, and I'm pissed. God, why'd you have to bring that up? Now I'm pissed.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Anyways, 3 vampires. You've seen it. I've seen it. 4 vampires. 5 eventually.
Yeah.
5 vampires.
I think 6 eventually.
6 eventually. Well, technically, yeah, I guess so. Much more if you count the end.
Yeah.
Anyways, first we meet Taika.
Yes. I don't remember any of these vampires' names except for Vlad.
Viago is his name.
Viago
is T's name.
He's like an old school dandy, and he's like just a
300 years or so. We're on the Revolution times. 389 years, something like that.
I like how, I mean, might be jumping the gun here, but I like how all of them are different vampires and like different eras of vampires.
Which one would you call this one?
I'd say he's like the
like a spoof of the Bela Lugosi.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's like a Bela Lugosi kind of like spoof? Just a fancy man who is also a vampire. And then there is Vlad, the
kind of disrespecting my boy, but I'll
let it
slide. Yeah, it's very funny because Bella's my boy.
Yeah, and then there's Vlad, the poker,
who is obviously the Gary Oldman that I didn't notice until after seeing it last night. Which, spoilers for us talking about that was a piece of shit movie.
Oh, fuck that movie. But yeah, he's he's edgy and he's got the hair and he tortures people and he turns into the old guy. And then there's Deacon. What kind of vampire is he?
I was assuming Lost Boys because they made that Lost Boys reference, which is because I kind of wanted to see the Lost Boys. Actually, I don't think I'm done with the vampire train. There's a big part of me that's like, hey, I gotta stop listening to these spooky podcasts like Lore, and let's put the fucking horror movie to the side for a second. I want to listen to Heavyweights, and like I should probably see a ghost story and like a marriage story and anything that's a blank story.
Hey, spoilers.
Yeah,
you don't need to see a ghost story.
I know, but whatever. Anyways, I'm not. I'm going to keep listening to the lore. Yeah. I'm going to watch The Lost Boys. Shadow of the Vampire, Interview of the Vampire, The Vampire 1932. These are all on the list. These are all going to be watched by me. So
anyway, you got Deacon, the 80s, 90s vampire.
I assume, yeah.
Yeah.
You're not Twilight.
And then you have the new guy, Nick.
You don't even know Dracula is.
And he's, I guess, Twilight. And then you have Peter, who is Nosferatu living in the basement.
Oh, yeah. That's so fucking funny.
It's so good.
I love the that's one of my favorite gags is all of them talking about their origin story.
It is like, my favorite part of the movie.
Peter.
Yeah. One day I was selling my wares, and he goes on this demon spread its wings above me and said, "Drink my blood." And I drank its blood, and I became a vampire. And that was Peter, and we've been friends ever since.
More than that, I probably like anytime someone's talking with Peter, though, like Viago trying to just talk to like his normal guy, or
we're having a house meeting in about 10 minutes. You don't have to come.
Or even when Twilight has to talk to him later, he's like, "Yeah, my mate's gonna come around, and you shouldn't eat him. We all kind of got an agreement. I think they like him more than like me,
Is Peter coming to the meeting? Peter is
8,000 years
old. He does not need to.
That's very funny, yeah.
But I love how this movie is just real. Like, at times I'm like, fuck, that's a really good vampire joke.
Yeah.
And then other times I'm laughing because he's just like a biscotti over and over again.
Yeah. I'll say the main 3 vampires definitely kill it. They all have their time to shine, for sure. I guess the 4th, if you want to add in Peter, it's just so... I wish there was more Peter, but also maybe the magic is that there's so little Peter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just real quick, another one that I can't believe how much I enjoyed on this watch around is like when what the fuck is the human guy's name?
Oh, Doug.
Doug, yeah. When he sets up a laptop for them, and they're watching a sunset on YouTube, and one of them goes, "Shit!" It's so funny.
And if we hit images, we can see pictures of virgins. Oh,
She's not a virgin enough to. But anyways, yeah. So anyways, yeah, decent. Moves along at a great pace. Great gags. It's almost, I would say, is this spoof territory?
yeah.
This is like a spoof almost, right?
It's a spoof. It's a mockumentary. Yeah, it's all that.
Kind of a spoof. Because I've made the statement before, and I think you've agreed that spoofs are for some reason the funniest
Sometimes, yeah.
in comedies.
Yeah, like there's
Airplane, a Young Frankenstein.
like there's so many good bits that aren't even like, hey, we're taking this thing from this movie.
No,
and
it's just spoofing the idea of vampires.
yeah,
like when Viago bites her in the neck, and he's like, "Oh shit!" and it's spraying her.
Yeah. Or like when they're going out to the club and they're before they're going out, they're trying on different clothes and they're drawing each other to show them, or like
fantastic,
because they can't see themselves in mirrors. And then when they eventually start going out to the clubs, and they can't get into any clubs because they have to be invited in because they're vampires. It's so good.
Yeah, I would say that it reminds me a lot of like Young Frankenstein, in the sense that Young Frankenstein is frequently considered to be like so much a love letter to Golden Age horror films that it might as well just be the fourth Frankenstein movie that happens to be funny. Yeah, I mean, from a writing standpoint, like the basis of the jokes, yeah, I'm being exaggeratory, but yeah, genius, very clever. It's obvious that Taika and perhaps Jermaine are both very big fans, or at least very knowledgeable of the vampire, whatever. And they've got, really interesting kind of twists on all of these little things that we all know about, right? Like the idea that they can't see each other, or themselves in the mirror, and yada, yada, yada. Had nothing to back that up.
Also, I know you haven't seen it, but show's pretty good too.
Yeah.
I remember watching the first few episodes when they like aired, and being like, these kind of just feel like jokes that weren't good enough to be in the movie. But then after a few episodes, it finds its footing, and it's pretty good. It's a whole new group of vampires who live in like Staten Island, I think. Spoilers, these three guys show back up toward the end. It's great. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love the have to be bought it or invited in. You might have to edit this little portion.
A fun twist on the show that they do is they introduce a vampire who isn't like a spoof on any like movie or like known vampire at all.
On the TV show, are the main three, are they also kind of spoofs?
Yeah. Oh yeah. The main three are kind of analogs for the folks in the movie.
Okay.
But they're a little different. Like one of them's a lady because it's 2019, Chris. But the fourth one who lives in their house isn't Peter. It's this guy, I can't remember his name, but he's just a normal looking man, and he's a energy vampire, and he sucks the energy out of people, and he's just a guy at an office who's just like, oh yeah, had to reorganize all my whatever this weekend, and oh boy, let me tell you, when I get to that, and just showing people in the office just like, and just falling asleep. And when I first saw that, I was like, ugh, okay. And then as it goes on, I'm like, oh, fucking love this guy. He's great.
Yeah. How about this? How about werewolves show up at one point? That's pretty Twilight.
Oh, I Murray from
Flight fame.
Reese Darby, I believe his name is. We're werewolves, not swearwolves.
It's not the only time he plays a were creature.
Oh yeah, he's a lizard man or whatever.
No.
I think it's, I don't know, so like technically in production, but there's a plan to do a sequel to this movie called Werewolves, like We Are Wolves, with those guys who are the werewolves.
Interesting.
Also, I believe Doug in this movie, that guy, that actor, not an actor, just a guy that they found that they were like, this guy's great, let's put him in the movie.
Well, on the topic of the werewolves real quick, I also like, again, treated with the same care.
Yeah.
They're wearing sweatpants because they don't want to rip up their shits. They're chaining themselves because they don't want to go up around eating little girls with, trying to keep a handle on it. They're trying to calm themselves down when they get angry so they don't turn,
It's great.
Those are all fun gags. Those are all fun bits. Anyways, so, I mean, I'm at the point where I'm wrapping up, I like the movie. I think it's clever. It's very funny.
Highly recommend it.
Highly recommended. Do you have anything else you want to say in passing before we rate this beautiful piece of cinema?
No, I don't think so. Good movie.
Yeah.
Highly recommend it. Very funny. I give it an A.
I'm gonna give it B plus.
Fuck you.
What?
I'm just kidding.
Can't get everything an A.
I guess. But I can give this an A. So I get some A.
Yeah. Good movie. Two Fangs way up.
Two Fangs way up.
But I tell you what gets Two Fangs way down. Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's
Piece
Dracula.
of shit.
Yeah. High hopes for this piece of shit. I really did have high hopes. Because I've heard through the grapevine that everybody's like, yeah, it's okay, but it's visually interesting.
Yeah, I hear it's like a filmmaker's movie.
Yeah.
Like to watch it and be like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Thinking about how they made this movie, that's really impressive. All of that was overshadowed for me by just what a piece of dog shit this movie is.
Yeah, like even Roger Ebert or whatever, like his thing was like, yeah, give it like a 3 out of 5 or whatever, mainly because, all these costumes are crazy and the sets are crazy and stuff. Aesthetically does almost nothing for me, except 2 things. One, the opening battle scenes where the armies are silhouetted over the red sky. I love that. And then there's a scene towards the tail end where you went piss, where they're like on a snowy hillside and they come to this nice little cliff. And again, it's kind of got like a very dramatically colored sky. I think it might be like red and blue at this point, and then very white snow. And it's obviously a set, much like the beginning. And I was like, yeah, this is striking too. I like this a lot. Otherwise, hate his weird little glasses that he wears in the streets of London. Hate it. List it. I hate it. Keanu Reeves does a shit job.
Okay, yeah.
Winona Ryder, beautiful. I love you. You're so interesting and smart, but fuck, that was an awful job. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, before we get too far, movie starts, he's in that weird like muscle armor.
Hate it.
With the horns. Love it.
Well, yeah,
Love
I guess I'm 50-50 on it. There's a part of me that hates it. There's a part of me that loves it.
Oh, I love it.
You're right.
It is dumb.
I probably just love it.
It's dumb, but I love it. And
that's a good way to put it, yeah.
They're in that weird church, and then he goes out, and it's the red sky, and everything's
Oh, wait, he says, I renounce God, though. That was dope.
And he comes back, and his wife has killed herself because she thinks he's dead. And they're like, well, she killed herself, and God's not going to look too kindly upon that, so she's in hell. And he's like, I went out fighting for this church, for this land, and this is what I get?
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, watch your tongue. That's sacrilege. God wouldn't like that. And he goes, I renounce God. I renounce God. And I'm like,
yeah,
this is the best movie I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And
great 5-minute opening.
Great
there.
5 minutes. And then immediately you get to Keanu Reeves going, well, jolly good. And I'm like, oof.
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves, dog shit in this movie.
Yeah, not good.
Winona Ryder, doing her best, I think, but this movie's dog shit.
Doing her best. But,
her friend Lucy, dog shit.
Yeah. I don't like Hannibal Lecter's as Van Helsing. Honestly, I feel like Gary Oldman would have made a better Van Helsing.
Yeah, probably.
Because we both agreed. I didn't think Gary Oldman should have been picked for Dracula.
Yeah, Gary Oldman sucks in this movie.
Doesn't do a good job, I don't think.
Yeah, I love everybody in this movie, but I hate everybody in this movie.
Yeah, well, you mentioned it, and I'll agree with you. It seems like everybody was miscast. Like, I'd rather see them play something else in this movie.
You know who'd have made a great Dracula?
Who?
Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah? Yeah, that would have been a great Dracula. Gary Oldman as Van Helsing. Oh, yeah, that's badass.
Yeah.
That's badass.
Yeah.
Imagine that in your head.
I'm trying.
Yeah. Did not like Gary Oldman's, like, modern update, serious method actor, intense version of Bela Lugosi accent.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of times where I couldn't hear him. Like, when he became a Batman, it was just like...
Yeah.
And then everybody was talking about that. I'm like, he said words.
I like old titty-headed Dracula. He's
that's
scary.
a good look. Yeah.
But then when he's a long hair mustache Dracula,
that's another scene I love. When Keanu Reeves is shaving and cuts himself, and then Dracula's like, and he like turns his back to Keanu and just real quick he goes like, and like licks it real quick.
It's creepy. Yeah.
Ooh, creepy. Ooh.
But also, it's two scenes in this movie do that to me. When he does that, I like it because it reminds me of spoilers.
The better
Werner Herzog's Nosferatu.
Yeah.
And then there's
watch that thing again.
where a woman gets killed by Dracula and he comes in as a dog. or a wolf or whatever, and just mauls her to death.
Yeah.
And then there's a real quick shot of her room, of her bed, and a bunch of blood comes in from the sides of the screen, and I'm like, ooh, I liked that. And then immediately I was like, oh no, I liked that because it reminds me of The Shining.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I like it.
Let's talk about what the fuck moments. Thought it was wild that he turned into a wolfman and then fucked that girl right in front of Winona Ryder as the wolfman.
I think it's insane that he turns into a wolfman in general, and then does a rape. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, that was a what the fuck moment. Well, you got one?
When he turns into a Batman at the end, instead of a man or a bat, he's just like halfway between.
Yeah.
And it's like, you get the feeling of like, ooh, this is his true form. But also at the same time, I get a feeling old him is his true form. And the beast, werewolf is his true form.
Turns into too many things.
Turns into too many things.
Way too many things.
Yeah.
In my opinion, also, just the idea of turning into a wolf at all just muddies the water between vampires and werewolves in my mind.
Yeah.
A little bit.
It's something I think we've noted about all these movies we've seen besides Shadows. The thing that's really cool about Dracula and Nosferatu is they're kind of like just sneaky and ethereal and working behind the scenes, and I get none of that in this movie.
Yeah, this is a really weird depiction of Dracula, in my opinion, that, like, words to describe this Dracula, and I don't appreciate any of them, like, sexy, but not actually sexy.
Yeah.
Romantic, but not actually romantic.
Cool,
I don't know,
but not actually cool.
Yeah, like obsessive, jealous, vengeful, but again, it doesn't seem like it doesn't really land. It just makes me feel like uncomfortable, but not in a cool way. Like I'm bored and this isn't really landing kind of like uncomfortable.
Yeah, and it feels like a weird, like, it feels like a modern day remake.
Yes.
Where the old one, Dracula's like, hey, your wife's got a good neck, so I'm coming for her. But in this one, he's like, well, that wife's got a good neck, and I'm coming for her because I think she might be the reincarnated soul of my dead wife from 400 years ago.
Yeah, it's
and
always like
she is
convoluted, and then also like, what we're really trying to do is be visually striking.
Yeah.
You know, that's what this feels like. It feels like convoluting the source material to the point that it's no longer effective, and then also striving for something visually striking, and then also tacking on an extra hour. Because there were multiple times where we paused this bitch and we were like, can you believe
God. This movie's almost 3 hours. We had to watch it with commercials.
Yeah.
And we stuck all the way through.
Yeah.
Like, I think a good, probably not even, probably 30 minutes in, I was like, hey, Chris, we could also watch not this movie. And you're like, I'm going to finish it. I'm like, fuck, I guess I'm going to finish it too. And then we did. And we watched 70 Charmin Ultra commercials along with this movie.
This is the first movie in a long time that I've actually, like, sort of pretty much regretted watching.
Yeah.
What a commitment.
But you know what?
For so little. I guess now I have that experience in that context,
I guess.
You know, but God, fuck.
But you know what you won't regret?
Huh?
Signing up for FanDuel, where you can gamble from the comfort of your home, Chris, and you can cash out without going to the cage.
Well, let's talk about that.
Your phone.
Let's talk about that for a second. I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist, but fucking, could we just not do everything from our home anymore? And I mean specifically apps. Like, why are all these apps like, oh, why don't you shop from home? Why don't you gamble from home? But I like the idea of leaving my house from time to time, and other people doing it so too, and I like seeing people sometimes.
I feel like...
And it also seems really dangerous, the gambling specifically. I'm telling you, this isn't going to go well.
Yeah, no, I feel like online gambling has been a problem for, decades at this point.
Yeah, but there's a certain threshold that's been crossed legally recently.
What do you mean?
I think there's something to do with the legality of, like, FanDuel just being, like, something you could have as an app on your phone. I'm pretty sure, like, as of last year, there was some sort of, like, here in Michigan specifically, like, some sort of bill that passed or something that, like, allowed them to cross a certain, like, threshold with, like, their practices. I have almost no information for you other than the fact that, like, that's why you see so many FanDuel commercials and DraftKings and all that over the last, like, year specifically. Because there was some kind of, like, something that changed. I wish I had more information for you.
Yeah, I don't see a huge difference between it being an app to just, www.onlinegambling.com, whatever those things are called. But I have noticed getting a lot of commercials for like FanDuel and other stuff like that. You're right. And at the end of all the ones, like audio ones I hear, there's a little sing that's like, if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, go to www.ihaveagambling.problem.com or something like that. I know a girl who lives with her mother, doesn't want to, but just kind of has to out of necessity, you know?
Oh, here we go. I have some information for you. www.letsgambleusa has something for me.
Okay.
I could read the whole thing, or I could try to fast forward to...
Hold on.
Here's online gambling in Michigan. All right, here you go. In 2007, whatever the fuck was followed by 2 bills sponsored by senators here in Michigan, yada, 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 which shared similar fates. The hope being that local gambling enthusiasts were focused on, a bill that did end up passing, whatever, we'll talk about it in a second. This new bill that was introduced by blah, blah, blah in 2017 and was passed, yada, yada, yada. I read that for no reason because it was not what I was looking for. What I was looking for was... right here, perhaps? Section 432 of Michigan statutes make it illegal to offer any gambling services without holding a license, but there's no denying the fact that none of the regulations refer to online gambling or mention any penalties for playing on unlicensed sites. So anyways, apparently the problem was, and I'm coming to a finer point, that Michigan law didn't necessarily say anything about online gambling until in 2019 when HB 4916 was passed, making Michigan online gambling legal. The new law made online and mobile casino games, sports betting, and poker betting legal in Michigan. So that's what it was that it was not necessarily illegal before. It was just in a legal gray area.
Gotcha.
So like it was kind of offered, but not super backed. And now you can just like blatantly be like, bet MGM grand online from your couch, you know.
Yeah, I have, like I was saying earlier.
Exponential growth.
Yeah, girl I work with lives with her mom.
In ads.
What?
I just said in ads.
Oh, okay. Lives with her mom. Doesn't want to live with her mom. Kind of just has to.
Yeah.
Lives with her mom and her younger brothers who are all like 15 and under.
All right. Which one of them's addicted?
The mom.
Oh, okay.
The mom is a waitress, works like 2 days a week, makes, waitress money.
Yeah.
And
which can be good. Depends on what you waitress.
Not if you work 2 days a week.
Yeah.
And online gambles. And just online gambles all of her money away. And never has any money. And is like stealing money from her sons and stuff like that. Yeah. So online gambling's bad news.
Yes, it is.
Also, we're mentioning this because there was a bunch of FanDuel ads during the movie. I don't think we ever mentioned that.
Oh, yeah, that's worth mentioning. And probably since we're bringing it up, right? Like, let's just say, here we go. No shame. You got a problem? Here's a number. 1-800-270-7117. Boom.
There you go. We're helping.
Yeah.
Also, we dislike this movie so much that we're talking more passionately about online gambling than the actual movie.
Much more interesting topic. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. How about
That's very dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
But anyways, go ahead.
How about that Charmin Ultra Max roll?
Couldn't give a shit. Commercials are crazy.
Yeah, anytime I have to watch television commercials, I'm like, fucking what the hell?
Yeah. I mean, I really don't want to get all Bill Hicks or anything like that, but like it is really genuinely wild, like that there's just a whole industry around. Yeah, remind people that we sell cars.
Yeah.
And then you make the little thing and then it shows on TV. And it's like, hey, a Chevrolet. And I'm like, oh, yeah, Chevrolet. I see them all the time.
Yeah,
wow, cars.
It's something I don't understand because, like, car commercials, Chevy makes a car commercial. Yeah. They're not showing you a commercial to remind you about Chevy cars.
Just remind you about cars.
Just to remind you about cars.
Like, I don't see enough fucking
Exactly.
cars.
That's what I don't. I'm like, I'm not going to forget about cars, okay?
Yeah, not going to forget about cars.
I see hundreds
I'm not
going to
forget most things.
I'm not going to
forget vacuums. I'm not going to forget ice cream. I'm not going to forget McDonald's.
Yeah. And also, isn't it insane to think about how just the Wild West of the internet, how that doesn't seem like too long ago sold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm still pissed. I can remember a time when YouTube didn't have apps. I'm still pissed about it.
Like, even every podcast I listen to, like, the only thing I think is, like, pure without ads is this podcast.
As for now, I mean, I swear to God, if we get one offer,
I'll sell anything.
I will sell
money.
Anything.
I'm so broke. Give me dollars.
Anything.
But I think I do enjoy, and I think it's kind of a testament to, like, streaming services, like Netflix or Hulu and stuff like that. It's like, hey, pay us $15 a month. We won't show you no ads.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's something I can definitely live with.
Yeah.
Eventually
I should.
That's also the thing too. Now there's fucking 1,000 of those, and if you want to watch anything, you have to buy all of them, which is just as much as fucking.
Well, that's the other thing. Netflix is grinding my gears. I get it. Diversify your bonds, and they're doing a cool thing, and they're really kudos, whatever. But also, I want to watch The Fugitive. I don't want to watch your 19,000 Netflix originals. Like, that's why I pay for your services, because you're supposed to be this back catalog of almost like having a library card where I could just think like, oh God, man, Gremlins 2, God, I'm gonna watch that right now. And then I open up Netflix, and it's like, oh, did you perhaps want to watch Netflix original Prom Night Monsters? Or Netflix original Gemini, or Netflix original The Arrival After, and I'm like, no, I wanted to see Gremlins 2. That's why I paid the $15.
Well, yeah, it's like the model, I guess, now is you have your original shows, like Amazon or Hulu or Netflix, and then you have some of that catalog we're all looking for. So you pay for all of them, and then you spend all that money, and hopefully you stick around with and keep paying for the one that I guess has the best originals. Because that's the only thing that's reliable for them for forever. I
think I've watched 2 originals.
Yeah.
I think I've watched Stranger Things and Making a Murderer. I don't know that I've watched any other originals.
Yeah, I don't like Netflix original stuff.
Yeah.
Compared to other stuff. Like, it's just, there's streaming original shows are made for TV movies that are stretched out to 8 hours, and every episode ends on a cliffhanger, so you watch that next one, which is whatever I get, but I feel like Netflix is the most egregious with it, where, like, the cliffhanger isn't so much a cliffhanger as much as they're just cutting a scene off in the middle.
Yeah. I also watched Atypical. I liked the first season.
A lot of people told me I would really like Atypical, and I'm like, I know everyone thinks I have autism. You don't have to. This show's not going to help me. But yeah, then there's Invincible exists, and I'm happy about that. So all is forgiven.
But there's just so many to pay for, and that's one of the big problems. Is like it's starting to become as expensive as paying for your fucking $150 a month cable plan.
I think the only saving grace is that they let you have profiles. So like,
and also that there's no ads.
Yeah,
it's still gonna beat out.
It's so
still
it's
gonna
that thing
beat
where,
off.
like, you get the profile, so I pay for HBO and Disney, and my dad pays for Netflix and Hulu, and we share.
Yeah, that's kind of what I got going on. I could use more of my dad's shit. I just don't. But yeah, he uses Netflix because there's no fucking way I'd pay for Netflix. I'm just going to say it. It's been years since I would gladly pay for Netflix.
Absolutely.
But I will happily pay for Hulu.
Yeah.
I feel very comfortable paying for Hulu.
Best thing my dad's ever done for me is pay for Hulu Live TV.
Yeah.
So I can watch things day after or like right after.
But also Netflix, if you want us to do an ad for you, I got no qualms about that. Selling your soul is selling your soul. I'll sell anything.
Hey, everybody, watch Midnight Mass streaming now exclusively on Netflix.
The fuck is that?
It's the new show from Mike Flanagan, I believe. He did like Bly Manor and Haunted Hill or Haunted House, whatever that first season was called.
Speaking of haunted houses, I guess Dracula lives in one. The creepiest thing that happens, I guess, is the room where the 3 women suck on Keanu Reeves for like 3 months.
I wouldn't say it's creepy. It's one of those things, again, that we were talking about earlier. They're like, ooh, this is sexy. And I'm like, no, it's not.
No, it just made me uncomfortable.
Because the boobs are out, it doesn't make it sexy.
Yeah. So anyways, what else happens in this movie? Yeah, I don't know. I guess like a long part
of it. A bunch of
bullshit
is what happens.
It's a bunch of bullshit. Like, so Dracula's like courting her for a long time. Also, almost any time a man is talking to a woman, I'm just deeply offended. I don't want to talk about it. It just, they talk at him in a way where it's like, you might as well be talking to a dog or something. I don't know. I don't like the way that men just touch or talk to women in this movie. I don't know how to describe it other than like it doesn't seem wholesome. It seems
the movie definitely doesn't pass the Bechdel test.
Yeah,
because there are two women who talk to each other for a very long time, but I think
about sex.
It's just about men. That's all they talk about.
Yeah, it seems like this movie is very like trying to be male centric sexy.
Yeah, it's fucked up. I thought if anybody, Francis Ford Coppola would be the feminist.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't seem like sexy in a broad sense. It doesn't seem like an exploration of sexy or an expression of sexy. It seems like it was almost like tailored to be male point of view sexy.
Yeah,
like it was trying to be sexy to men.
Yeah, like this isn't even sexy, but just it's I think a symptom of what you're talking about, kind of, when Dracula meets Winona Ryder for the first time. He's just bothering her and bothering her and bothering her on the street. And she's
classic.
Like, hey, leave me alone. Just leave me alone. He's like, hey, can't we talk and get a cup of coffee or whatever? He doesn't say that. Just the Victorian version of whatever I just said. And she's like, I don't think my husband would be too happy about that. He's like, oh, your husband? Oh, please forgive me. I am so sorry. I will leave you alone forever now. And she's like, oh, okay, let's go get some coffee.
Which I don't understand. And I've seen that happen in movies a lot.
Yeah.
Especially old movies.
Yeah.
Where something like that happens, where like a woman's like, actually, and then the guy's like, hey, I just didn't understand. And then she's like,
I guess you're not so bad.
Yeah, no.
I guess I am being a total bitch right now.
Which I didn't think Winona Ryder was being a bitch at all. I think she was...
Hey, I don't think there's ever a situation where Winona Ryder could do anything and I'd go, oh, that bitch.
Anyways, I mean, what the fuck else happened? Van Helsing shows up. He's weird to a woman.
Yeah.
Does some other shit.
That's kind of his whole thing in this movie. He shows up and he's weird to people.
Yeah, just weird. I don't understand it. Tom Waits is in this movie still. Totally
forgot Tom Waits is in this movie.
Talked about gambling online for a long time.
Tom Waits plays Renfield.
Tom Waits, I didn't need him as Renfield.
Didn't need Renfield in this movie at all. Doesn't do anything.
Yeah, Renfield was not...
They just cut to him in a jail cell or a insane asylum, and he's like, "Why I eat flies," and then it's over.
All the Tom Waits scenes felt very Batman Forever /
very
Batman and Robin to me. Yeah.
Oh, they felt like Tim Burton instead of those two movies to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like the weird,
I could see that. Yeah,
wide
I
lenses,
could see that. Yeah.
Like his like weird straight jacket with the arms that go all the way to the ceiling.
Kind of like the straight jacket the Joker wears in the Batman.
Yeah.
The 2005 animated.
Yeah,
series,
that shit sucked.
Yeah.
And then I was checked out for like the last hour of this movie. Couldn't tell you how it ended.
Yeah. So he turns Winona Ryder into a vampire. She wants that to happen.
Yeah.
She sucks his blood out of his ribcage.
Keanu, yeah.
He decides he doesn't want to do it. Oh yeah, we should mention that Keanu, like,
his hair gets progressively more gray as
after escaping. There's that whole scene where this is such a long movie.
Yeah, this movie's 3 hours.
There's that fucking point where he escapes. Yeah.
And stumbles upon a church.
Yeah.
And goes, hey, Winona Ryder,
send this letter to my wife. Well, my soon-to-be wife. And the letter reads, come to this church so we can get married.
And she's like, hot damn, let's go. I've been fucking Dracula, but doesn't matter.
Dracula, yeah. So anyways, yeah, so she decides she's going to go to be with Dracula, but then Van Helsing is like, well, let's use her to track down Dracula or something. And then they race Dracula to his castle, and then they like ambush Dracula's caravan of, they say like it's gypsies that are running his caravan. Yeah. And they kill all those guys, and then Dracula comes out and they get into a little fight, and in classic vampire fashion, the climax is very anticlimactic. They just slit his throat real quick and then stab him in the chest, and he kind of dies, and Winona tries to like protect him with like a rifle, and she's like, no, nobody any closer, I love him, and then he still does die. And then after that, I don't know what the fuck happens. I think it just ends. At least in my mind, it just ends.
Something I do like that I just remembered about this movie.
Yeah.
Lucy, Winona Ryder's friend in this movie.
Yes.
Becomes a vampire.
Uh-huh.
She dies. They bury her, and they bury her in this very elaborate outfit.
I'm glad that awful noise just started up.
Yeah. With this like big collar and this big headdress and stuff like that. And then she comes back as a vampire, and she looks very cool.
Yeah.
And they like knock her down, and they stake her, and she's like, and then they cut off her head, and it looks cool.
Yeah, well, that was a good shot, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a good shot. There's like 5 good shots in the 3 hours of this movie.
Jesus Christ.
Like I said, I cannot express how much I just hate Gary Oldman as Dracula.
Yeah.
I hate Keanu Reeves in this movie. I hate Anthony Perkins in this movie. I hate how long this movie is. I hate how most of it looks. I hate just the choices they made. Like, I just hate like the idea of like this romantic like courting Dracula who has no swagger.
Yeah.
He's not got any swagger. It'd be different if like he was kind of smooth talking, kind of smiley, a little bit cheery. You kind of liked him. Perhaps if you liked Dracula, I wouldn't mind spending 3 hours with him. But I don't like this Dracula.
He's like, hello, and she's like, all right, y'all, cuck my husband. Let's do this.
Yeah. He's just saying very innocuous shit, just like, oh, I would like to see a cinematograph. And then she's like, I can't do this to Jonathan.
Yeah, and then he's just got those awful sunglasses.
Hate him.
Don't think sunglasses existed back then.
So anyways, yeah, this is a piece of shit movie. As far as I'm concerned, this is a fucking F. I would not recommend it. I don't think... It just... The only saving grace it has for me is, like, that cover of the fucking DVD is so iconic. And it just reeks of, like, this was a big deal in the 90s to me. And that's the only thing that gives it any points for me. It's just the idea that, like, it made an impact, kind of. Does that make any sense? Like, I don't like the Titanic.
Okay.
But, like, I see a Titanic poster, I'm like, I always think of, like, oh, yeah. For some reason, that reminds me of Friends. I don't like Friends. But I think my ma did. And so there's, like, a weird little soft spot where I'm like, oh, yeah, Friends exists. Same thing. I'm like, oh, yeah. Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula. I want to like it. I've seen it. It's a piece of shit. It's got a badass DVD cover, though. You know what I'm talking about? The one that's like stone with the little face and the red. That font's a good font. That's a good Dracula font. That's the best thing about this movie is that Dracula font.
The only reference I have for this movie in that vein is my local movie theater when I was a kid had little displays all over the place with like props from movies and stuff like that.
I know exactly what you're talking about. You're talking about the glass and then behind the glass?
Yeah.
I'm talking about
the Star Theater on Gresham. Yeah, they had a little Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula.
What do they have
display.
in it, though? I
don't remember.
Yeah,
I just remember they had one of those and they had one for
Is it gone
Woman.
now?
Oh, it's long gone. Yeah.
Wow, what a bummer. Yeah, I remember that so vividly. That was like one of my favorite things. They had like 3 or 4 of them or something, right? Yeah.
I just remember the 2.
Yeah.
But besides that, I haven't thought about this movie until we started thinking about watching it, and then we watched it, and now I'm afraid to watch Robert De Niro's Frankenstein.
Oh no, I'm happy about that. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm scared.
I cannot wait.
Because it feels like the same situation where I'm like, Gary Oldman is Dracula, Anthony Hopkins is Van Helsing. Yeah, this movie could be not bad.
Well, do you want to hop into Frankenstein's next? Do you want to watch the 3, and then we can watch Curse, and then we can watch Mary Shelley's? Oh, we could also watch Reanimator, kind of, because that's the H.P. Lovecraft short story, 80s kind of
like
Frankenstein story.
Young Frankenstein.
Oh, yeah. Well, that would be the What We Do in the Shadows thing.
Yeah, and also we got to watch Halloween's.
Yeah, starting this week, basically.
Yeah, fuck.
Yeah.
Ugh. Anyway.
We'll get to Frankenstein later. Maybe? Yeah, I guess so.
We'll see how it goes. We'll think.
Anyways, this movie sucks. Big butts, and I cannot lie.
I'd also give it an F. 2 fangs way down.
Yeah, 2 fangs way down.
Hey, Chris, you know what movie I fucking love to pieces?
Yeah, I love that movie a lot, too. I know what you're talking about.
Werner Herzog's Nosferatu.
Yeah, that was a really, really good.
We finished
it.
At
times, it feels, just to jump the gun, like watching The Crucible or something that like the school would make me watch.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah.
Where it's just like I remember seeing a couple of films where I'm like, in 7 years, I'll probably appreciate this. But you're making me watch it right now.
I get that.
And I don't care about it.
Yeah. I just loved this movie.
Yeah.
I said it when we finished.
Great vibe, great pace.
I said it when we finished it. This it's knocking a movie off my 100 list.
Yeah.
I love how
you said it initially, and I was a little apprehensive, but yeah, I think it might be one of my favorite, if not my favorite, vampire depiction. Although, like, God, Bela Lugosi's just is such a shining star for me. Like,
there's something about this Nosferatu. Can't think of the actor's name. I'm sorry, but I didn't like him at first. But as the movie goes on, I'm like, oh no, I definitely get this, and I definitely get where they're going with this Nosferatu. I didn't like how he didn't really look like Nosferatu. He kind of looked like a baby.
Yeah.
As well as Nosferatu.
Big creepy baby.
But he's just so creepy and just unsettling, and just the way he talks. And this movie is so quiet and so scary. Like, it's not even scary. I would say it's like horrifying. Like, where I'm not like the entire time. I'm just like, oh fuck, I don't like this. Oh, I don't like this. But I like it, you know. I think like the best example I could probably give, and it's probably my favorite scene in the movie, and it's a scene we've seen 3 times now in all the other Dracula and Nosferatu, where the ship that he's on shows up to the harbor and the whole crew is dead. Like, the ship is empty and the captain's dead. In all the other movies, the ship shows up and we just see a bunch of guys on board and like, yeah, no, everyone's dead on this ship. And like, oh, that's strange. But in this one, there's just a shot of the canal, and it hangs out. It's just one steady shot, and the ship just slowly floats into frame, and you can see that there's nobody on it. And it bumps up against the side of the canal, and then you see the captain tied to the mast, just dead. And it takes a while, and like I said, it's just dead quiet, and it's so fucking good. And that's how I would describe this whole movie. It's just, it's quiet, and something just kind of starts to happen, and then it happens, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah, I like the like slow build. It's just got this creeping, progressive kind of like atmosphere about it. Like, one of the things that I love about this that you don't really see in a lot of the other ones is like, you know, when she's like, I figured it out, and she's stopping all of the men who are carrying caskets through the...
Yeah.
She's like, and he's just like, yeah, the council's dead. And she's like, well, let me talk to the mayor. And he's like, yeah, the mayor's dead. And then, like, it comes to a climax, in my opinion, in my favorite scene of this whole thing, when everybody's dancing in the town square and having their last supper before, because they're basically just like, yeah, we're fucked. We're going to get the plague too, and we're going to die. Yeah. So we might as well just get fucking piss drunk and eat all the food before we die.
I do like it. There's a scene before that. I can't remember who's involved with the scene, but they're trying to arrest somebody. They're trying to arrest Van Helsing, I think.
Yeah, because he's staked Dracula. Yes. Yes.
And they're like, arrest this man. And he's like, and there's just this little old man in a top hat in the background. He's like, me? And he's like, yeah, arrest him. He's like, I'm not a cop. He's like, well, then go get the cops. He's like, they're all dead. And he's like, well, then arrest this man. He's like, and take him where? Everybody's dead. There's nowhere for me to go.
Yeah. Yeah, I think my favorite part of this movie for sure, in my opinion, I think the movie really kicks off. God, I would say Jonathan in the castle. Yeah, I guess it's Jonathan in the castle. I was going to say, like, after the boat shows up, because there's so many cool things after the boat shows up. But yeah, this movie just fucking rips. Yeah, I love, this is my favorite version of, like, oh, I cut my thumb, when he's like, oh, it's an old remedy. It's the best thing to do. And he sucks on Jonathan Harker's hand.
Yeah. I think everything in this movie is the best version of anything we've seen. Yeah. I think the movie kicks off when he starts going to Dracula's castle. But like we said in the other movies, he either just shows up there or we get some quick shots of him on a buggy.
Well, yeah, I love the shot actually, like, of everybody in the bar looking at him. Yeah. It's very striking. There's just a beautiful sense of like, oh yeah, him going. Like, I would guarantee that Werner Herzog has an influence on Christopher Nolan, because there's so many shots of like just like slightly shaky cam in the dark cave, or like Jonathan Harker's looking up at like a soft kind of like stream waterfall that's falling, and I'm like, this looks like Batman scoping out his cave in Batman Begins before he builds.
Yeah, there's a lot of shots of him like climbing mountains, or not mountains, but giant hills.
Yeah, or just then, like, fog in the morning on the hilltops.
Fog in the morning, and then him climbing different hills and mountains, and then
when we finish, I want to watch this movie right now.
Yeah. And then more and more, and then we get shots of him like silhouetted because it's night now. You get a sense of like this is a journey for him. And I love, it's not something I really ever notice in movies, and when I do notice it, it's for the wrong reasons, except for this one, such a great use of spotlights in this movie.
Yeah.
Specifically, when he's in Nosferatu's castle, when he first gets there are a few scenes where they're sitting at a table together, or it's usually when they're sitting across from each other, Jonathan and Nosferatu, where he has a spotlight on him, and Nosferatu is just sitting in darkness, but he's so pale that you can see pretty much just his head just floating in the darkness. And then, after he sucks his thumb and he kind of runs from him a little bit and then falls into a chair, and they're sitting across from each other in front of a fire, there is, very clearly just a spotlight on him on that half of the screen, and then he's just sitting in, Nosferatu's sitting in blackness, and then there's the fire behind them.
I think this is the real genius film that we've talked about. Even though I was talking lightly about what we do in the shadow being genius and clever, I think this is very clever. Even the salt circle thing, and even the fact that when the maid comes in, he's just sweep up all this dust.
I'd say
I like that. And then he just steps out of the circle. Great.
I like all that. I'd say that's probably the weakest part of the movie to me. Is that at the end he's like, I am Nosferatu now.
Not that part necessarily. I mean specifically the part where he's sweep up this dust, and just shit like the little jail scene with the whole hey, nobody's down at the jail, and also even just the idea that this is the most expressively we've seen Van Helsing actually be in trouble for what the world would see him doing. The world would see him murdering a man. That's what the world would see.
Yeah. Also, I'm sorry, one last spotlight is after which we'll get to this scene in a second, after he sucks the blood out of Jonathan's girlfriend, whatever her name is, I can't remember, I'm sorry.
Nina.
Mina.
The M.
Mina. It's like Van Helsing or a doctor or somebody checking on her, and he's dead in the corner, and there's just a spotlight on him.
Yeah.
And it's not that distracting. It's just so you can see him the entire time in the scene. And it's great. I think he is the creepiest vampire we've seen so far, in just such a quiet, uncomfortable way. He's not scary. He's just awfully unsettling. Just the way he talks and the way his mouth smacks when he says certain words and stuff like that. And just... Oh, it's the oldest remedy. Please let me suck on your thumb. And it's just great. I will say something that's happened in a few of these movies that I do not like. Makes me laugh every time I see it, and I don't know why they insist on doing it. But when you see this vampire with a coffin under one arm running around, where am I going to put this? Where am I going to put this?
Yeah, great.
So fucking fun.
I like it.
I love it.
And just everything I feel gets treated with this weight and reverence. Everything just feels so the captain being the last one alive and tying himself to his fucking steering wheel.
I called it a mast earlier. I'm not sure that's what it is.
I don't know anything about ships. I've never been a seaman type. I don't really care for the ocean, or you know what I mean. Anyways, like I said, Jonathan's trek is a serious thing that feels like it takes time. The trip on the ocean with everybody slowly dying of the plague feels like it takes time. The whole town dying feels like it takes time, right? It just, and this is a movie that, even though I don't know how to describe the contrast between this and Bram Stoker's. Maybe this is a movie that actually feels like it takes up time, whereas Bram Stoker's just takes up time.
Yeah.
And I love this. This is, an astronomical A+ in my book. I love this. I can't wait to watch it again and again and again and again and again. The music's great.
There's a scene where Mina is brushing her hair in the mirror, and you see behind her the door open, and she goes, and you see his shadow behind her, and then the door closes and the shadow's on the inside of the door, where she is. And I was like, oh, that's just a cool, spooky way to show him just supernaturally slinking into the room. And then I'm like, oh, fuck, that's right. He's a vampire, doesn't show up in mirrors. He's just walking in behind her. And they talk for a little bit, and she flashes the cross. And she's like, I know what you're fucking up to. It ain't gonna work, okay? And he's like, okay. And then, yeah, her plan eventually becomes she's going to let Dracula suck out her blood, and he's going to be so into it that he's not going to realize he's there until morning.
Yeah.
And the sunlight is going
to
hit him.
And it worked. She was right.
And it works.
Yeah.
And it's the only time in this movie where you see him bite anybody and drink their blood. And it is so...
Yeah, it made me actually go, ooh!
It is so intentionally sexy. It is so fucking uncomfortable. I said to you while we were watching it, I was like, this is so sexy and I hate it. Because he's so gross. Everything he's doing is so gross, but he's so, like, sensual while doing it. And, like, yeah, he, like, bites into her neck and then he's, like, sucking it out with his mouth. And I was like,
the forbidden fruit, you bite into that Adam's apple
like,
with his little rat teeth.
In my mind, the way vampires work always has been they get you with the teeth, and then the teeth suck up the blood.
Oh, ooh. That's worse. Bone needles? You're talking about bone needles.
I'm talking bone needles. I think bone needles
hate it.
are better than just jabbing with your teeth and then... Yeah, that shit sucks to me.
Bone needles is fucked.
I think bone needles is cooler, but this is creepier, and I liked it a little bit more.
God.
And yeah, fuck, there's all the scenes of just the town just shits on fire and they're carrying 100. There's that one big scene where you just see hundreds of people walking out with like dozens and dozens of coffins. It's just that big shot. Oh, it's so good.
Coffins, rats, talks about Last Supper, plague.
So many rats. So many rats in this movie.
Lots of rats. Wonder what the rat budget was.
It was huge. They killed a lot of the rats. It's a bummer.
It'd be interesting if that shit was like public information. Like you could just look at the budget for a movie. Yeah. Legitimately, like what the budget, where the money went.
I'm sure it's one of those things you gotta lie a lot to get a movie made. So
100%. And just other shit like you're talking about with like the idea of like kind of cooking the books or whatever. Like you don't really want to make it public. What do you mean you spent $100,000 on fucking Coca-Cola? How much Coca-Cola were you guys drinking? You know, like there's a lot of shit that I'm sure there's lies and. Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's probably one of those things that only the people that need to know.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, anyways, yeah, that's an A+ movie. Bram Stoker's, Francis Ford Coppola's worst movie I've ever seen. And I've seen The Terror, and I think Dementia 13 was his, and those movies rip. And also that Godfather was okay. But this is a piece of shit. And then What We Do in the Shadows is very funny.
It's great, love it.
Yeah. I'd say maybe one day I'll get the chance to make a vampire movie.
These first and these last ones, I'd say the first and the last movie, close to perfect.
Did we start with 1931 Bela Lugosi?
Oh, I meant in this episode.
Oh, I got you. Yes, I thought you were giving your overview of the vampire.
I was giving an overview for this one.
Yeah.
I would say, out of all the movies we watched, I'd say it'd go Herzog, Bela Lugosi, Nosferatu. No, I'm sorry. It would go Herzog, Shadows, Bela Lugosi, Nosferatu, horror, 6 empty spaces, Bram Stoker's Dracula.
It's very funny. Well, I think that's that. Mattress Man.
If you need more soup, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, or go to our website, eatingsoupalone.com. And until next time,